Hi guys, Steph here and welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing a oracle card reading to dive a little bit deeper into the messages and the wisdom that the spirit of the eagle holds. Now, if you haven't already done the meditation, I'll put it in the description box down below, but you can stop this video and go do it first, or you can do it after, or you can also do it not at all. It's completely up to you. But either way, you hear at this video, there is a message that the eagle spirit wants to share with you. The eagle is a chief over all winged creatures and it flies higher than any other bird. And this is a symbolic representation of its closeness and its connection to the divine and the higher realms. So when eagle is appearing, it's nothing to be taken lightly or sort of just to be taken off a whim, in my own interpretation. You can interpret it however you want, but I don't approach any spirits with a kind of rash, quick, grab and snatch kind of attitude. I really sit back and try to drop my ego distortions and really feel and sense what the consciousness of this animal is sharing. And I've really tried to do that here in this oracle card reading today. So I have chosen these cards actually a few days ago, and I had a look at them, I had a look at the guidebook, and I just meditated on them, thought about them for a while, and just allowed myself time to kind of integrate and see how this all makes sense. And now I'm ready to sit down and share this with you. So that's what this video is all about. So I have two little piles of cards here. One's got a clear quartz on it, and the other one has, I believe they're called serpentine rocks, these little green ones. I'm not quite sure. I just got them for meditation, basically. I just enjoy having them in my palms, and it's linked to grounding and all that stuff. Anyway, not really important. It's just there to help you choose which card pile has a message for you. So I'm going to zoom in, give you some time to choose that. Pause the video if you need to, take as long as you want. And I am going to start with the clear quartz. Okay, so the first card we have is Maiden. I believe that's how you pronounce it. She's the goddess of spring and transformation, which is really cool because when I first pulled these cards a couple of days ago, I was doing some research on the spirit of the eagle, and there's a lot of Native American traditions that talk about the eagle as a carrier of the east winds, which is, you know, spring and rebirth and new things. So when the goddess of spring and transformation came up, I thought that was really fitting. And then the second card is the shadow. So have a little look at those. What I came up with over the last few days of interpreting this is not an easy message. Because when the eagle shows up in your life, it can mean that you're being put on notice, that there's a kind of spiritual challenge ahead of you, work to be done, let's say work to be done. That's a better way of saying it. And through Maiden in particular, we are being alerted that we need to have a good look at our repetitive judgments that we have towards others in our life. Because quite simply, underneath them are aspects of yourself that are desiring to be seen. And when you let go of the judgment, it can reveal the gold that lies underneath. And the best example I can give of this to make this more concrete is my own experience with judging people. Now, a couple of years ago, I was stuck in a repetitive judgment cycle of seeing other people as stingy. And it took me quite some time to learn that the reason I was so frustrated by stinginess is because I was frustrated by my lack of generosity towards myself. And I was way too tight with money in general, but I was completely blocked when it came to investing in the right tools and better equipment that would make my creative work better. Like a good quality microphone and editing software. And all this stuff is not cheap, and I was too fearful and too afraid of spending money on it because deep down I was denying the potential that I could actually make something of value because I had a fear of not being good enough and being misunderstood and just failing completely. And all of this stuff was bubbling under the surface and only coming to light through the judgment of other people being stingy. And it's weird, but that's what happened. And when I really sat with all of this and I had a good look at it, I said, all right, I'm just going to buy a couple of high quality things and see how it goes. And, guess what went away? The judging people as stingy, because I wasn't withholding from myself anymore. So stinginess wasn't something that activated me and made me frustrated. It was just, it is what it is. The person chooses to spend the money how they want. So Eagle is encouraging you to do the same. And from Eagle's perspective, there's something that is wanting to be seen that's in the shadow. And because this card popped up, it's hinting to the judgment of others as like egoic and selfish. Underlying this judgment is perhaps, and I want to make clear, not always, but perhaps an aspect of you that is desiring to show up for yourself in a more assertive way, just like the person you're judging. Without the skill of assertiveness, we can often fall victim to some type of mistreatment, not because we can't fight back, but because we're choosing not to. And this frequently happens to people who are by temperament, compassionate or more self-sacrificing, or those people who have not practiced the skill of assertiveness, either because it wasn't modeled when they were young, or even worse, shunned when it was shown by, parents or teachers or whatever. And with a capacity to defend ourselves restricted by either too much morality or little practice in the skill of assertiveness, we can't call forth the appropriate self-protective measures, even the anger necessary to develop greater self-respect and resist any mistreatment. So when you open yourself up to well-balanced, necessary assertiveness, and yes, even self-centeredness when appropriate, rather than taking a too nice approach, a type of awakening occurs and your nervous system responds in an entirely different way. Chemicals that support mental and emotional strength are released, and you will literally expand and transform physically and psychologically. And assertiveness then is good for you. And in this awakening, you will dive into reservoirs of strength, of grace, of wisdom. And it's not about being reactive, but responding appropriately with those chemicals supporting you. So you don't shrink back and you don't puff up. You just stand your sacred ground. Now you will have to really reflect and see if this is the exact circumstance for you, this exact judgment example, or it's another type. This is sort of the ego's way of explaining something, but it could be that it is or it's not the actual exact judgment for you. And I do want to say before we wrap it up that this isn't easy, but we are working with a chief of winged creatures. It's like finally reaching the level where you combat the boss instead of like all the little minions. Anyway, in saying all that, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so if you have chosen the serpentine green stones, we've got Sound the Fierce Flute, which is a card that represents discernment fundamentally. And then we've got the Explorer. And as you can see there, it's kind of got north, east, south, and west. And when I first looked at this card, I was actually reminded of a story I read a few years ago called Journey to the East. And it kind of just like stuck with me for a little while. And then I read the guidebook and it kind of had nothing to do with that. So anyway, like I said, I spent a few days with it and I just kept coming back to this story. I was like motivated to read it again. In it, a group of men begin on a mythical journey, and there's a character in it called Leo, and he goes with the party as a servant who sort of does the menial chores like setting up campsites and fires and that. But Leo also sustains them with his spirit and his vitality and his songs. And he's a person of extraordinary presence. All is going well on the journey until Leo disappears and the group falls apart and the journey is abandoned because they can't make it without Leo, basically. And then after some years, one of the members finds Leo and takes him into the order that sponsored the journey. And it's there that he discovers that Leo, whom he had known as a servant, was in fact the head of the order. He was its guiding spirit and a great and really noble leader. And the message just coming with this story isn't about necessarily being great and noble or even someone who's in high spirits, but it is saying that you need to take responsibility for the energy that you're bringing forth and accept that your energy imprints the field around you. It imprints your workplace, your home, your classroom. It's something that is just a result of the biological being affecting the quantum field. And oftentimes we think about our workplace, our classrooms as separated from our spiritual growth. We often tend to separate our spiritual growth and evolution from real life, but things like your workplace can be the greatest temple that you encounter that is ripe with opportunity to practice what you think you know is true, but you need the experience in order to turn it into understanding. You know, people say that they're spiritual because they meditate, and meditation is great, don't get me wrong, but unless you can take that meditation and the energy that you have invoked within it and that awareness into your everyday landscape, into your conversations, what use is it really, apart from making you feel good for a little bit? Emotions are the language that directly influences your environment, and Eagle is asking you to take responsibility for this energy field. And when you do, when you use discernment and be careful, you will create more harmony and even uplift the people around you. Your inner light illuminates outer outcomes. It's again not a simple thing to apply, and it takes effort. But just like the last one, we're working here with the chief of winged creatures. So whatever lessons bring forth from those higher realms is never going to be something that's, not that it's not going to be easy, but it's not going to be something that's la-di-da. It's going to be something real and something that does create true change in your life. And there's nothing that creates greater change than taking responsibility for your own energy and that which you bring forth. All right, so as always, we've come to the end. You know how this part of the reading goes. Like, subscribe, share. If you do want to work with me one-on-one, the link will be in the description box down below. And that's it, really. Bye.